warm spring air was refreshing as the sun hung high in the sky. Flowers popped out of the ground, new buds in this harsh world. So many different colors, some colors that I've never seen before. The flowers were a palette of colors for the artist that is nature. What a beautiful painting she had done. The trees danced in the wind to a song that only they could hear. If I closed my eyes, though, and listened, I could hear them sing along. I sat for a moment under their shade, took in the environment around me, and the beauty and solace that was there. It was like I was the only person left on Earth, a princess, and this place my kingdom. It felt like home in this forest, like it always belonged here. I continued my journey into the forest. I could hear the water that splashed against the stones, the humming as it continued down its never-ending journey. Farther up, the small water would turn into a waterfall. I could hear its roar from within the forest, splashing as the water clashed with the rocks. To travel on the water would be an adventure, but it didn't feel as right as being within the comfort of the trees. My journey continued as I happened upon stone walls. The walls went on until they joined together to make a shrine. The shrine was a massive building now covered in moss and vines. It called to me. It felt right to enter. Inside the shrine was wondrous. So many beautiful statues and plants were inside. I stopped for a moment and looked at a monument. I ran my fingers over the cold, smooth edges. The moss had taken over the bottom half of the statue, yet the top was clear of moss, like something sat upon it. The farther down I went to the shrine, the more it seemed right, like something was pulling me in. I stopped for a moment, closed my eyes, and took in the forest air. It filled my lungs and my senses. It smelled like a home I had longed for, a home I had once lost long ago. I slowly opened my eyes, and there it was, sitting in a small patch of flowers with a soft waterfall behind it, and it was as white as snow. The wolf's golden eyes looked upon me and drew me into it. I approached the wolf and held my hand out in front of me. Placing my hand upon its white snow pelt, the world was bright, and I finally felt solace in my mind, body, and soul. The wind pulled at my hair, tugged at it, tangled it into a nest. It buzzed past my ear, the screams of chaos. The rain hit my face. It felt like it would leave a bruise. The world turned dark. It was no longer the solace that I remembered. Walking down the road, all I saw was destruction. Ocean grew dark with anger, and the sky swelled with sadness. The tears of the sky fell to earth, though no one could hear her cries. The grass and trees slouched from the depression of Mother Nature. She covered the world in a veil of black and gray. It was no longer my place of solace and peace of mind, but instead fed the sadness inside of me. I walked on the road to the town. The bricks swept like the tears of the sky. My own tears fell to the pavement and joined with the skies in a sad little dance. I stopped and stared at an old house behind a very angry fence. Graves scattered the yard as a warning for those who even thought about entering. The trees in the yard reached out for my hand, but I could not enter. The iron fence kept me out. It screamed at me to get away, that I was no longer welcome here. The wind whispered in my ear that I should leave, that it wasn't right being here. I turned and walked away. The rain had stopped, but the puddles of tears remained. I took a moment to look into nature's mirror. What I saw looking back I did not recognize. My chest grew tight and my vision faded. The only thing I could see is the image of the fence and the graves behind it. The trees now screamed louder and louder that I didn't belong. Then I saw a light, as bright as the sun. I didn't know where I was or where I had come from. I didn't know what I was or even what my name was. It was like I was a newborn babe looking at the world through new eyes. I was lying down when I came to. A bright light shined upon me, blinding at first, but strangely reassuring. I leaned up and looked around. I was lying in a bed of flowers, slightly covered with morning dew. The flowers were softer than any bed I had lain in. Around me, all I saw was nature. Beautiful nature. The trees were green and lavish with flowers. The grass was the brightest green that I had ever seen. The wind was so light, barely there, and whispered pleasantries in my ear. I noticed that no one else was around, but it didn't feel like I was alone. It felt like I was surrounded by old friends. I went to stand up and noticed that I no longer wore shoes. I put my feet in the flower bed and watched as my toes tangled with the grass. The grass felt so soft on my feet. I stood up and started walking towards the meadow. It felt as if I was walking on water. I felt drawn to the meadow where the most beautiful flowers grew, flowers of every color, as if Mother Nature had painted a work of art. I took in everything as I walked. This place seemed so familiar. It seemed like I would never get to the meadow though, but I didn't seem to care. Then I was there, in the meadow. I took it all in before stepping into it, and as soon as I did, nothing else existed. It was just the meadow. The forest around it seemed to vanish. I looked around to make sure my eyes weren't playing tricks on me, and when I turned around, there she was. The wolf was white as snow with golden eyes. It sat in the middle of the meadow and stared at me, called me towards it. I began to walk slowly to it. I felt safe with the wolf, felt like she was an old friend. I approached the wolf and just stared for a moment before sitting in front of her. I placed my hand on the side of her face and my forehead on hers. Everything went white, and a shining golden light appeared and pulled me in. I finally knew who I was and what I was. I finally understood where I had come from, and it wasn't to that moment that I knew I was.